The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. We are back. It is Tuesday, March 4th. I'm your host, Andy McNeil, and joining me, as always, is the very handsome Nick Martin. Nick, how you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Yeah, it's the NHL schedule is broken perfectly for me this week after a weekend with a dozen matinees and stuff I had to write on, so that was annoying. But yeah, things are great. I'm excited about this slate, so should be fun.
Yeah, it's a very balanced schedule. There's no real light days. I think the lightest day of the week, maybe Friday, or Wednesday. I think 5 games on Wednesday. And actually, I have a schedule breakdown on dailyfaceoff.com that you can check out. Picks out all the rest mismatches. So, of course, we had 6 games on the docket for Monday. Bigger slate on Tuesday, and yeah, just 5 games on Wednesday. But that's the lightest day of the week. There's even 8 games on Sunday. So it's gonna be a pretty busy week in the NHL. And a pretty interesting slate here. But let's talk a little bit about Monday night's results. I had the Caps on the money line. I was happy that got there. But I was kicking myself because we talked about this a few weeks back when the Caps and Senators last met about how these teams have gone to overtime a ton.
Draw, yeah, I thought you
And I was, I was really conflicted on whether I wanted to bet the draw or go with a player prop or something like that, because there was a lot to like about that matchup. But as I was finishing up my article and placing my bets, it was confirmed that Logan Thompson was going to make his second consecutive start. I had originally thought, like a lot of the would be alternating between Thompson and Charlie Lindgren, but he must have been up late the night before negotiating that new contract extension. So they gave Thompson the start, and it was going well for a little bit. But yeah, that game got pretty wild and ended up in overtime. But thankfully, the Caps got the job done. How did your night go?
I ended up down on the night. I got sucked into the Lightning there at a pretty decent price. Uh, the Sharks, I Sharks to win the first 2 periods of the game and then gave up as they poured it on in the third to get the win. So kind of right church, but wrong pew. Yeah, that one really pissed me off because it was kind of what I was thinking the game would be. I really thought it was a good spot for the Sharks, and I basically found a way to lose 2 bets on it. So yeah, not a good night there, but things have been a lot better lately, so that helps a little bit.
And a big trade this weekend between the Florida Panthers and the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, Seth Jones going to the Panthers, and a bit of a, I guess, head scratcher considering they probably could have just signed Brandon Montour for what they're now paying Seth Jones. Although the Blackhawks are retaining, I believe, $2.5 million a year for the rest of the duration of his contract. But Spencer Knight coming back the other way. And that's a guy that probably needed a fresh start on a new team. And he got one last night in Chicago, stopping 41 of 42 shots as the Blackhawks beat the Kings. Great performance from him. I mean, I think Blackhawks fans are pretty optimistic about this trade and kind of see him as maybe being the goaltender of the future. Of course, he was a high draft pick, had some issues over the last a couple of years, and some, probably not by any fault of his own. And he's come out on the other side looking pretty good in his first game as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. What do you think about that trade, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for Chicago. It was really surprising. Florida's one of these teams where if they see something they like in Jones, beyond kind of what a lot of us thought, I respect that. They've had a lot of these D like Mikkola come in recent years and made it work. So I'm not going to sit here and I don't think Jones is very good, but they're one of these teams where if they see some things they like and think they can make it work, I'll back them. But it does feel like nobody was crediting Knight much in this deal. Because he had a pretty great start to the year. Even prior to last night, he was sitting at like a 9-10 save percentage, positive goal saved above expected. Both were actually better than Bobrovsky. I'm sure he had some easier starts, but yeah, it's not like he had, had an off year this year. He was kind of bouncing back steadily. So I like the bet from Chicago, and we have seen goaltenders take some time to adjust the NHL level and develop. So yeah, I think all in all, Chicago did really good here. Hopefully, it'll help them turn things around.
And yeah, it looks like the trade market heating up here. We are, of course, just 3 days out from the NHL trade deadline. Daily Faceoff will have tons of coverage leading up to the trade deadline and on deadline day on Friday. Looks like Max Jones heading to the Oilers, according to Frank Saravelli, and Elliot Friedman reporting that Trent Frederick will be traded to Edmonton. Believes this is a three-way deal with the New Jersey Devils involved. So I guess Oilers fans are getting their guy, but don't say I told you so.
Yeah, I was
when he
actually I
doesn't
hadn't
live
heard
up
that
to
yet.
expectations.
I was scared you were going to say the Caps, and who knows, maybe he'll do better, but I didn't want the Caps to try that and insert him on the third line. I think what they need is someone who brings some meaningful offensive punch. And like you've said, he's had opportunities to play in the top six. He's, I think, gotten better chances than people seem to, credit. He's, he plays physical, he brings an edge, but I don't know if he's going to be the guy who provides that significant secondary scoring. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that one works out. I feel like a guy who doesn't really move the needle offensively obviously doesn't help the goaltending concerns or the defensive concerns for the Oilers. So, yeah, we'll see how much that one actually works out for them.
And he does, play with an edge, but I think he can also kind of cross the line sometimes and take some stupid penalties. So, you hope that doesn't happen at a really costly time. But I would like to see Edmonton kind of swing for the fences here and not kind of just go into the trade deadline. So, I guess, I don't know, uninspiring.
Conservative, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
have liked to see them go after a big fish. I mean, this is your they might not be playing like it right now, but given where everybody's at in their organization, they are in win now mode. And you would have liked to see them really go out and make something happen for somebody that is going to move the needle on both sides of the puck, or at least a lot on one side of the puck. But I guess time will tell. We'll see if here it is. To Edmonton. Trent Frederick, Max Jones, Peter Hauser, two Boston Bruins, Max Wayner, 2025 second round pick from St. Louis, and a 2026 fourth round pick from Edmonton. And the New Jersey Devils get Shane Lachance. And Devils taking 50% of Frederick's contract, 1.15 million. So I guess they're helping the Oilers out maybe for getting their good graces a little bit down the road when Edmonton ultimately decides to tear it all down and trade everybody. No, but anyways, we'll see. Probably see some more deals here in probably today. I would imagine that things are going to start to kick off. One chip has kind of been played here, and I imagine a lot of dominoes will fall in the coming days, as we've seen in past years. A lot of stuff happens before the deadline, right? So I would expect Wednesday and Thursday to be pretty busy days in the news cycle in the NHL. But let's get into today's slate. We're already 10 minutes into the show, so I guess we should start talking about some hockey from a betting perspective and not just pontificating here on trades and whatnot. But we've got a big game between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we are both on the Blue Jackets to win this one on the money line. Currently plus 143 at Pinnacle right now. Was a lot better earlier, around plus 155 earlier this morning. But that has rightfully moved down, but still some value here, right, Nick?
yeah, I think there's a lot of value here. We've liked Columbus. They were good to us last Thursday. Picked them to beat Detroit. Kind of outlined ahead of that game that I thought, if anything, they were just simply the better team out of those two teams. And I still kind of think that they look really good right now. And it kind of feels like no one's really respecting them, even looking at their price to make the playoffs, still plus 150, which, considering their actual spot in the standings, seems pretty good. They've won 4 straight. Offense has looked excellent. And they're kind of getting contributions from all over. So I think there's a lot to like here. They should get Chinikov back too, who's been a legitimate needle mover at full health. We'll see kind of if he picks up right where he left off, but that's a pretty big get. Kind of another one of these guys that I think's flying really under the radar for the Blue Jackets. So I think there's a lot to like about them. Solid top 4 defensive core right now. Just pouring it on offensively. And the goaltending this match is obviously really minimized, assuming we do get Jonas Johansson here, which is kind of what obviously we've been banking on. And I think the last, kind of thing to touch on, this is another one of these spots where it was highly unlikely the line would ever move the other way. Even last night, some of the rec books had plus 170s out there on Columbus, which was pretty insane, I thought. So yeah, hopefully they'll come through for us. The Lightning had a tough matchup last night versus Florida. They've been really good recently, but this number still just looks a little crazy when you look at the scheduling mismatch and Johansson starting in goal. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to be backing the Blue Jackets in this spot.
Yeah, obviously Tampa Bay on the second half of a back-to-back here. Columbus coming off a 2-day break since their big 5-3 win at the Stadium Series in Ohio. That was a pretty cool scene there. And 2 big wins, 5-2 and 5-3 in back-to-back games versus the Detroit Red Wings. And now the Columbus Blue Jackets have a 2-point lead on the Red Wings. They're sitting in the first wild card spot. They're only 4 points back of the New Jersey Devils for third spot in the Metropolitan Division. And given how New Jersey has been struggling, I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to see the Blue Jackets keep this run going and maybe overtake them. Of course, the Devils have a pretty tough matchup here tonight in Dallas, playing the Dallas Stars. But there's a lot of other games on the docket here. The Detroit Red Wings in action against the Carolina Hurricanes. And you like a player prop in this one, right?
Yeah, I like Rantanen to get 3 shots. I was kind of surprised at the number here. He's still pouring it on shot volume wise at pretty much the same rates with Carolina that he was earlier in the year with Colorado. Obviously, the trade's not worked out, exactly as they drew it up to this point, but he's still recorded over 2.5 shots on goal in 8 of 11 games. And you look at the kind of player doing that and his attempts, he's averaging over 6.5 during that span. I'm kind of surprised by this number. I think it's a pretty good time to just keep riding him here. And he has looked a little better coming out of the Four Nations break. So I feel like there's a lot here to like. He was dealing with a nagging injury earlier with Carolina too. He missed 1 game with that. So I think maybe that hurt him a little bit. And he's currently playing on the top line alongside Aho and Svechnikov. So I think there's a lot to like here. Detroit's a pretty break-even matchup in terms of shots allowed. So, yeah, I feel like it's a pretty good spot to just stick with that trend, which is out there at minus 118.
And I know you might not have anything on this game right now from a betting perspective. I'm not sure if you have your article up at Flames Nation yet, but the Calgary Flames playing their 3rd game in 4 days against the Philadelphia Flyers, who are coming off a 2-day break. And I guess just a kind of I think a weird note about the Flames is that there's rumors out there that they're interested in Brandon Carlo, which I don't think makes much sense. I saw somebody on Twitter say that if you're in on Carlo, the only thing that would make sense is if you're, looking to get rid of Rasmus Anderson, I guess. But that seems like a bad trade-off for the Calgary Flames. But just how do you view this game from a betting perspective right now?
Yeah, I saw that too. I also thought it made absolutely 0 sense. I know you need roster NHL defensemen up there playing, but the Flames have guys coming up, and it feels like gambling on Carlo at age 28 bouncing back just doesn't fit their timeline in any fashion. I was pretty puzzled by that rumor. I thought this game, Philly has been a lot better, as we talked about, than their record probably implies. The Flames really seem to be falling off here. It's been the last 3 games of the road trip were versus really good teams in the Lightning, Panthers, and Hurricanes, but they were dominated specifically in the last 2. So I thought the sides looked pretty fair. I think it's a good spot to consider backing that Tippett Michkov unit, which has been really good lately and has just been dominating everyone. And the pick that I settled on, Michkov, is at plus 102 to go over 2.5 shots on goal. So I think that's a good look, but I think kind of however you want to target it, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tippett and Michkov both go over their shot prop, both record points. Maybe Tippett scores. You look at defensively, the Flames have been horrible lately. I think the Wolf X factor is a little scary, but I'm just not seeing how they're going to shore things up defensively right now. Rasmus Anderson's been really bad. Backlund's been horrible, and they just need more out of those guys. And they're both still playing in critical roles. So we'll see. And then, the other note, I'm sure a lot of the Flames fans are kind of with me, but Huska's lineup in this game is really debatable at best. He's got Zari on the fourth line. I think everyone kind of still feels like he's probably got among the most offensive upside in the team or on the team. So we'll see. It feels definitely like a gamble to assume the Flames will bounce back, but who knows? Maybe Wolf kind of can provide enough of an edge in goal for them to steal it. But I kind of think it's going to be a solid performance from the Flyers. So hopefully we get Michkov to come through for us again.
Yeah, and I mentioned the Devils and the Stars going head to head tonight. Jacob Markstrom will be in goal for the New Jersey Devils. That has been confirmed. So he was in goal on Sunday in the 2-0 loss to Vegas. So he's going to get his next start here against the Dallas Stars, who will not be starting Jake Ottinger. They're going with Casey DeSmith here. But I like Thomas Harley to score a point in this one. -105 was the price earlier at Sports Interaction. He's been on a tear lately. He's got 5 points in his last 3 games, and he goes much further than that. He's basically, he didn't get a point versus the Islanders, but he's been on quite a run here since the end of January, and really since Miro Heiskanen went down with injury, and he's been thrust into that top pairing role, top power play guy. All of the signs pointing to him continuing here, and there was a big discrepancy between the price at Pinnacle, which was I believe -119 at the time. And the prices at some of the other books like Bet365 and Sports Interaction. So I took advantage of that. I think that these Harley props haven't quite been adjusted enough. So I went over 0.5 points, trying to cash this for a second straight time. Here, got it at +110 on Friday in their game against can't remember who now, but yeah, I think he's a player that I'm going to be targeting a lot down the stretch here, at least until Heiskanen comes back, because he's playing great right now, and he's just in a great position to generate points. But some other confirmations that were a little bit, I think there was one more that was a little bit surprising. Well, I guess it's not really a surprise that Calvin Pickard is going to start for the Edmonton Oilers. I think his play against the Carolina Hurricanes definitely warranted another start. He stopped 35 of 36 shots in Edmonton's 3-1 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. That helped the Oilers snap a 5-game losing skid. And he's been pretty good this season. So I don't think it is very surprising that he's going to get the start here tonight versus the Ducks, who have, I guess, believe it or not, inserted themselves into the wild card race. They're likely not going to make it. Let's be honest here, but they made things interesting. They're just, I think, 5 points back now of a wild card spot. And they're in the first half of back-to-back here tonight. I mean, they couldn't really carry the momentum that they kind of had going before the break. Out of the break, they haven't been good since returning to action. But they've got an important 2 points on the line here tonight, and probably even more important 2 points on the line tomorrow night in Vancouver. So I think that could influence their starting goaltender decision here. Maybe they go with John Gibson tonight versus the Oilers. And save Dostal. I know both goalies have been really good this season, but Dostal has been quite a bit better than Gibson, and he's got a better record. And I think it wouldn't be surprising if they saved him for the matchup versus the Canucks. They went 7-1-0 in the month leading up to the Four Nations faceoff, but 1-2-1 since returning. So they are in the race, but unlikely to make it. Still among the worst teams in the league, though. So I wouldn't let this little run here, fool you. I mean, since the start of January, they still rank 30th in both expected goals percentage and shot attempt percentage. And they've scored on just 13% of their power play opportunities since the start of January. And they've got the seventh worst penalty kills. So, yeah, nothing really good about this team outside of the goaltending. And they've gotten beat up by the Oilers a lot over the last few years. They've lost 8 of the last 10 meetings against the Oilers, and that includes their last 4 trips to Edmonton. The last time they won a road game in Edmonton was December 17th, 2022. But, while Edmonton did have a really good performance against Carolina, I thought they played probably their best game since before the Four Nations face-off. They owned 51% of the expected goals and 55% of the shot attempts at 5-on-5, which is really impressive because Carolina ranks first in both of those categories. So good on the Oilers. But, I think this is another game where you want to stay away from the sides and just look for the top players to kind of continue doing their thing. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl has continued to be excellent. He's on an 11-game point streak, picked up a pair of assists in that game versus the Hurricanes. His 7-game goal scoring streak did come to an end, though. And Connor McDavid also on a 4-game point streak here, but he still hasn't scored a 5-on-5 point in 10 games. So I think this is a really good opportunity for him to kind of get off the snide at 5-on-5 and hopefully register a multi-point game, which he has done in 10 out of his last 13 games versus Anaheim, going all the way back to the start of the 2021-22 season. Like I just said, the Ducks are an awful 5-on-5 team. So and they're awful on the penalty kill. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for McDavid to generate points tonight and maybe even score a goal. He had 4 shots versus the Hurricanes. So seems to want to get off get the monkey off his back there and get back on the score sheet. So I like McDavid over 1.5 points, minus 115 at Pinnacle. But otherwise not super interested in this game. I mean, you'd like to see the Oilers come out and get some points on the board, but other than that, I don't think there's much to say from a handicapping perspective.
Yeah, I think the Oilers are definitely favored enough considering the goaltending matchup versus either of the Ducks guys, and I think we have seen the Ducks able to hang around. I'm interested to see if the Ducks decide to bring Cronin back because of this little run, which I think would be a bit of a disaster. But if maybe they level themselves into it, which, I mean, really, when you've had arguably the best goaltending in the entire league and you're still only this good, I think it's more of a knock than anything. And I continue to think the Ducks have more talent. Like, I was high on them entering the year. And if you had told me they'd get this kind of goaltending, I would have thought we'd be, have a good chance at cashing some of those Ducks overs that I was on. But anyways, I'm right with you here. I think the Oilers are definitely favored enough. If anything, it wouldn't surprise me to kind of see a big game script where the Oilers really pour it on, but maybe a couple mistakes and a good goaltending performance, and it ends up being probably closer than it needs to be.
Yeah, and the last one that I want to talk about is the Penguins and the Avalanche. Pittsburgh, they've lost 6 of their last 7 games. They're just 4 points ahead of the Buffalo Sabres right now, who are currently in the last place in the Eastern Conference. And the Sabres have 4 games in hand on the Penguins. So you very well could see the Pittsburgh Penguins finish dead last in the Eastern Conference. I mean, their playoff hopes are all but dead at this point. Probably not a bad thing, given that you need some draft positioning given where they are at. But I'm not even sure if they have I might have to look that up today. I'm not even sure if they have a first round pick heading into this year. But the Penguins, man, I don't know. They don't look all that bad when you look at their underlying numbers. They look pretty respectable. They've ranked 8th in shot attempt percentage and 12th in expected goals since the start of January at 5-on-5. But it just hasn't translated into wins because their scoring rates are so bad. So they rank among the bottom 10 teams on offense and bottom 10 teams on offense and bottom 5 teams on defense. And they have they've just been brutal on the road too. They've gone 10-21 straight up away from home this season, and they've lost 11 out of their last 15 road games. So between the goaltending issues and their lack of scoring, they have just been, they haven't been a good bet this year. They've actually been the underdog 47 times this season, and they've only won 16 of those games. So you'd be down roughly 9 units if you had bet on the Penguins to win all of those games. Which, yeah, I mean, pretty bad. I think that is the third worst mark or fourth worst mark as an underdog in the NHL. And the Avalanche, they're looking good with Nichushkin back in the lineup. They kicked off a 6-game homestand, back-to-back wins, 5-1 win over the Devils, 5-2 win over the Minnesota Wild, looking to win their third game in a row for the first time since January 2nd, when they won 3 games between December 19th, or 6 straight, between December 19th and January 2nd. They're just 2 points back of the Wild for third spot in the Central Division. They have a 7-point lead on the Calgary Flames and the Vancouver Canucks right now. They have lost 6 of their last 10 meetings versus the Penguins, but they've won the last 2 games, which includes a 6-2 win in Pittsburgh back on December 10th. They're 18-10-2 at home this season, and 11-2-2 on home ice since December 14th, including 4 straight home wins. And yeah, their underlying numbers look great right now. Since February 1st, the Avalanche rank 3rd in expected goals percentage, 4th in shot attempt percentage, and 5th in goal share at 5-on-5. Kind of been scoring at a below average rate over that stretch, but their defense has more than made up for it. They rank 4th in goals against per 60 minutes in all situations since the start of February. They've also got a big rest advantage here. They've been off for 3 days, so they'll have a 2-day rest advantage over the Penguins tonight. And I'm going back to Nichushkin here for my bet for this game. He had 11 goals and 6 assists in 21 games before getting injured on New Year's Eve, and he's been back with playing great on a line with Jonathan Drouin and Casey Middlestad. He's had 5 shots on goal in each of those 2 games since returning. Scored on Friday against Minnesota. He's not on the top power play unit, which is a bit of a bummer, but he is on the second. And I think given his line mates, he's going to be the go-to shot option on that line, right? They're going to try to get him the puck as much as possible. And everything I've said about Pittsburgh, I think Nichushkin's plus 190 anytime goal odds at Sports Interaction are pretty attractive. So I'm going with him to score a goal on Tuesday.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. It seems like whatever the hell is going on with Nichushkin, whether it's injury or whatever else, he always does seem to play unreal when he's in the lineup. So
yeah,
and like we talked about, the Avs splits when he's in there versus when he's not in there are crazy. And I feel like it's just the difference between them having a really good second line. He can pull that unit up, kind of whoever worth he's with, to really good results versus, the rest of the time this year, it's really just been that top unit dragging everyone else. So yeah, I like it. Hopefully he keeps it going.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ryan Lindgren here too. He was traded to the Avalanche on the weekend. I think that was maybe a bit of a surprise. I wasn't sure if they would add something on the blue line. I was kind of thinking more forward addition, but I guess with Nichushkin back, it made it a lot easier to trade Rantanen and or with him coming back, probably they had thought about that and when they traded Rantanen, but I kind of thought they would add to their forward group. So I was a little bit surprised to see them acquire Lindgren, but we'll see how that works out for them.
For sure. Yeah, and Jack Jury has been useful, so they did get an extra guy there.
True enough.
And maybe they're another one of those teams in that boat of like, they know more than I do, but Lindgren has been horrific. I don't really see what they're hoping to get out of him. I feel like this is just a defensive defender whose body's just worn out. He's blocked a million shots, doesn't skate like he used to. So yeah, we'll see. They asked Bednar very specifically what he saw in him, and Bednar said, we have some analytics that we value that we think kind of tell us he's going to be more useful than people expect, but we'll see, because I think right now it's pretty hard to say that Lindgren is even a league average defender.
Yeah, no, for sure. But unless you've got something else you want to talk about, that pretty much does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. Anything you missed, Nick?
No, I think that's it. I didn't see any lines from tomorrow that completely jumped off the page either. So yeah, hopefully we'll just get into all those tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have tomorrow's show to talk about that, and maybe a little bit something extra for you on Wednesday, but we'll see. Until then, good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.